Hey there beautiful souls, Avalon here, and today I would like to do a video that was inspired by one of my favourite Instagrammers, the lovely Hey Is Maggie May. I love her, I think she's beautiful, she's got such a great energy, so do check her out on Insta. She asked me a question a while back regarding non-traditional tarot decks that didn't exactly follow the Waite structure. She said she was bored with it, and I've had this question from other people before, so this time it inspired me to do a video. So that is what I'm going to do today. Now, what I will be showcasing here in this particular video are decks that I believe that are just very unique in their approach. They don't necessarily follow the Waite structure, they don't follow the Thoth structure, they don't follow the Marseille structure. They're just very unique in their artwork and their approach to tarot. And so I thought that I would do a video like this, so that for those of you who like to read, say, a little bit more intuitively, who like a more oracular style set up for your tarot decks, who want something that, you know, really opens up the mind and has a color palette that frees that intuitive response and those intuitive reflexes, then this video is for you. I have outlaid 13 decks and I'm going to try and get through them really quickly so that this doesn't drag on for ages. The first deck is the Hidden Waters Tarot by Anna Turian. The Hidden Waters Tarot is a very non-traditional deck. It follows that ink blot system that is often used in psychology and analysis and things of that nature. And so I believe it's called the Rorschach ink block tests. Did I say block? I meant blot. And so she has taken a very, very beautiful approach and embedded that into a tarot deck. Now this tarot deck here is my favorite tarot deck for past life readings. And the reason why I like it for past life readings is because it is non-traditional and you can allow the artwork to really ignite the senses and paint the picture in your mind. And I have had such tremendous use out of this deck in that particular setting for past life readings, for past life exploration readings, and, you know, for the telling of stories and for building like a narrative for a past life. So that is the Hidden Water Tarot by Anna Turian. The next deck that I'm going to show you is the Chimonier Tarot deck by Eden Gallanter, or Galanta, however it is that she personally prefers her name to be pronounced. This deck comes with a little white book. It is smaller in size, about the size of the Bonfire Tarot. It has a beautiful, beautiful backing. Hang on, is that the place card? That is the backing of the deck itself. Very, very pretty. And the artwork is just stunning. This is hands down one of my top 10 favourite decks because of this dreamy artwork. It is so dreamscape, it is so igniting, it's fluid, it is water, it's a water deck for that particular reason. It works with sort of this enigmatic, mysterious lunar energy, and it pulls out the subconscious message from you, or so I feel. That's how it works with me, which is why I love it so much. And it gives such a beautiful reading, and it's fantastic for readings for spirituality, for spiritual development, and then of course for shadow work, for shadow excavation. It works okay for path workings as well. If you are doing a path working in, say, correspondence with any shadow work or healing work that you might be doing, or even soul retrieval work that you might be doing. And so it's fantastic for those things, and it is a beautiful deck. The stock is okay, it's about 300 GSM, and I like the size because I have quite small hands. Big cards don't bother me at all, but I do like it when a deck can be just as beautiful. It's got a very subtle black border on it as well, and so just a lovely, lovely deck. So that is the Chimonier Tarot deck. The next deck that I'm about to show you is the lovely Chrysalis Tarot by Tony Brooks, artwork by Holly Sierra. This is the book for the Chrysalis Tarot, and the book for the Chrysalis Tarot came well after the tarot deck itself has been released, or had been released. This is a beautiful, beautiful deck, and this is the backing of the deck, and I'm going to flip through it now and talk a bit about it. So the Chrysalis Tarot has taken a whimsical yet cross-cultural approach to tarot. It has managed to infuse into this deck various deity and cultural gurus and people of interest or persons of interest from the spiritual communities, cross-culturally speaking, and embedded them into this beautiful deck. And the artwork is charming, it is whimsical, and it is very standalone, very non-traditional. And so I was delighted when they finally released the book, because up until a point it was a blog situation that you could refer to, and there was a very well-known Facebook group that worked specifically with this particular deck. Now the book itself is very cute in its layout. It's a page and a half, you know, black and white representations, a great intro to it, and it's about 216 pages. And so it's worth having if you're not familiar with some of the characters and sort of the style of this particular deck. But once you sort of walk into the world of the Chrysalis Tarot, you come to love it and enjoy it and be enchanted by it, because it is a very enchanting deck. The next deck that I'm going to show you needs no introduction whatsoever. It is the Wild Unknown Tarot by Chris Crans, I should say. It sits under a beautiful little stone. Now this is a deck that, simply put, took the world by storm in a very interesting way. This is the backing. It's very trippy, I know. That's the backing of the deck, and it is a very non-traditional tarot deck. The cardstock is absolutely beautiful. The craftsmanship behind the deck itself is stunning. Some people love this deck, some people hate this deck. My own thoughts on this deck is as follows. I'm going to wait till the popularity of this deck dies down before I can actually build an affinity to it, because I am just overwhelmed by the number of images that I see. When you type in tarot into Google search, you will see this deck. You will see the Waite Smith, and you will see this deck. And you will see maybe the Marseille and the Thoth as well, but you will absolutely see this deck. You will also see tattoos of people with this deck. It is iconic in its own right, and it has been picked up by a major publisher. And so you can now acquire this deck via mass production. This is a indie version of the deck, so I purchased this a while back, and when it was just self-published, and I think the artist herself did a beautiful job. And then later on, the deck itself, I should mention this actually, the deck itself was released with just this. This is the sheet, right? And later on, she, upon the call, okay, the community call, because it is so different to the Waite Smith structure or the Thoth structure or the Marseille structure, people were calling for a guidebook, and so she brought out this guidebook here. And I purchased this guidebook for about 25 bucks separate to the deck, much after it was released. And so you get a representation, a full-page representation, and then a very short description. This could essentially have been just a little white book. I don't find that the information in this book is quite enough to really do the artwork justice. And I do believe that Kerry Malion's from, I think it used to be Happy Fish Tarot, she has on her blog an entire write-up about this deck that I think is infinitely better as far as resources go to understanding the artwork and the messages behind this particular deck. So I would advise, and in fact I will link that particular blog post or blog entries of Kerry Malion's from Happy Fish Tarot in the description box below, because it's way better. Don't waste your money on this one, guys. Okay? That was the Wild Unknown Tarot by Chris Crans. The next deck that I'm going to show you is the lovely Gypsy Palace Tarot by Nora Huska. Now originally I saw this on Tarot Professionals because Nora is a member of the Tarot Professionals, and then I saw it in Wicked Fallout Colour on Kerry Ann Maddox's channel. And so she enticed me to purchase this. The deck itself comes in this beautiful little box. I bought this deck in 2014, and she signed it. I bought it shortly after it was released, and I find this deck to be really, really, really funny, really interesting, and very unique, and you're going to soon see for yourself. So this is the backing of the deck, and this is the artwork and style of the deck. This is very non-traditional. I do love the ecstatic nature of the artwork in this particular deck, and I think that the deck itself is really quite colourful. It's interesting. It's got this bohemian feel to it. It's teensy bit risque. It's just fun. It's wicked out there, and it gives you a really great, funny, high vibe reading. Great for a deck for Beltane. Great for a deck even for, say, like the fire season of Litha, or even, you know, the harvest season of Lammas or Lunasa. But a good Beltane deck, I think. The one downside to this particular tarot deck is that it does have a multilingual border, which I'm not a fan of, but I understand why artists do that. But it's got a really large border, and I feel like it wastes a lot of space as a result of that. But that's my only qualm with it. It does not come with a little white book, and it comes with a standard tuck box. And so that is it. That is the Gypsy Palace Gypsy Palace Tarot. The next deck that I'm about to show you is my autumn favourite deck. I will use this deck during autumn and winter. I love it. I love what it brings out in me. It is the Wildwood Tarot. Artwork by Will Worthington, Mark Ryan and John Matthews, who are noted authors. And to say the very least. Anyway, this deck itself is beautiful. The box is sturdy. The guidebook is phenomenal. It is a very non-traditional deck. It is a deck for druids. It is a deck for pagans. It is a deck for those who follow the pagan wheel of the year, or the witch's wheel of the year, or the agricultural wheel of the year, whatever you want to call it. It does have a wheel in the start. Hang on, I might be able to show. Oh, I almost had it then. I almost opened up to exactly the right page. There you go. It has a description of the wheel right there. It associates suits and particular cards to that wheel. It's very, very clever in its approach. It's got a great write-up on each card. Small representations and black and white, but very detailed nonetheless. They've managed to get the image quality even in the black and white version there, and then a good layout for the actual write-up. So you have the descriptive, then you have the key words, so to speak, and then you have a short description, you've got meanings, you've got reading points, and it's great. It's a great little setup for a deck. It comes divided in the box, so it's one of those that comes in a dual setup like this, and I keep mine in its box because I use it you know, once a year across a couple of months, and then I tuck it away, and it's a good enough box to keep it in. So I'm going to show you some of the images here. I've seen this deck trimmed, and it looks phenomenal. And it really does make the images pop. One of my concerns with decks with white borders is that it takes away, it detracts from the image. So I would much prefer a darker border. I would much prefer no border at all, in fact. But if there has to be a border, then I would prefer that border to be dark. And I think white just takes away from it. White adds light to the cards, I feel, whereas black would have added this, you know, the deeper woodsy side of the card itself, or the deck itself, because it is called the Wildwood, and I would have liked to have seen a little bit more shadow in it, and I think that shadow could have been achieved by just trimming off those particular white, stark white borders. Anyways, having said that, this is a beautiful deck. It is so earthy, it is so pagan in its way. It is so liberating to read with it, and it reminds you of the precious nature of earth, and then cultivating the benefits of cultivating a strong relationship with the earth as well, and the wildwood, the concept of the wildwood, which is so beautiful. The major arcana is animals, like these majestic, gigantic, beautiful personalities and archetypal animals, and that is something that I just love. I think that this is a beautiful deck. It is definitely one of my top 10 decks, without a doubt. The downside of this deck is the shitty cardstock. It's very stock standard cardstock. I think it could have been so much better. I would love for this deck to have been recreated with stronger cardstock. I'm talking around the 350, 400 GSM, just for those of us who want to keep it forever and use it all the time. You know what I mean? So that's the only downside to it. Other than that, it is one of my favorite decks. So that is the Wildwood Tarot. Yay! The next deck that I'm about to show you can only be described as, oh my god, shut your face. It is that good. It is everyone, I believe, everyone's top 10 deck in some aspect. It will be up there. For those who own this deck and who have not yet given it away, it will be right up there in the collection. And it's definitely right up there in my collection to the point where I have 2 copies, one autographed copy, one stock standard copy. This is a mass-produced deck. A deck that is so freaking amazing. It is the Marielle Tarot. This is not a deck for everyone, let me just say that. Despite the fact that those who own it would have it, you know, up there in their top 10, it is not a deck for everyone. It is a deck for that individual who has a darker soul, who wants to venture into the darker aspects of the soul, who wants something that is much more alluring, deeper, more intense. It is visceral. It is the mother of all. It is crone. Like, it is so crone. It is so freaking crone, okay? This is the backing of it, the double Oribus. And this is the deck itself. It is beautiful size, great cardstock to a degree. I mean, it's mass produced, but it's okay. The cardstock is actually better than the Wildwood. And so there is just nothing traditional about this deck. It is so out there in its imagery, and it is confronting in its imagery. It is even a little bit scary in its imagery, which is why some individuals just cannot mesh with the energy of the Marielle. If this deck had to be compared to one of the 3 big systems of tarot, being the Thoth, the Marseille and the Waite, it would be more Thoth than Waite or Marseille, obviously. And it is just a stunning deck, and you only need a few cards, and it creates such a vibrant landscape in which to read and to pull information from. It is so beautiful. That's the Hierophant card. That is the Hierophant card. Freaking phenomenal. And you and they did the black border thing there, which I really like. And I've seen this deck trimmed, and it looks absolutely phenomenal trimmed. Like super, 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 super amazing. Like, wow, the images pop when it's trimmed. And because the cards are so big, they can afford to lose that bit of border. So by trimming it down, you're actually creating a deck that is a bit more of a stock standard size. And then some people have actually lopped off the entire bottom and gone totally oracular with this particular system, which is fantastic. Now I'm going to show you the book. So this is Landscapes of the Abyss, and holy hell, when you start to look at this deck for the very first time, it's very confrontational. When you look at it for the first time, you're like, oh my god, like what is going on here? There's stuff everywhere. It's a real trip out. And then you see Landscapes of the Abyss. It really does make sense. It's very hermetic, the write-up of this particular deck itself, and she's done a lot of research from a traditional standpoint, and she's taken information from and quotes from all over the space and injected it into this particular book. And so the representations are black and white, and they are good, so you get a good size representation. The book itself is a bit more landscape, and it does have a really good amount of information there, and it allows you to sort of go there and see her mindset and the artist process, which is really interesting for this deck particularly because it is such a full-on deck. But I will say this, it is not essential for you to read that guidebook because of the nature of the artwork. She has done such a phenomenal job on the artwork that you can afford to read it oracularly, because, or is that even a word? You can read it like an oracle. That is a term. And allow your mind to just go with it. Now, one of the things that I find with this particular deck is that it is very confronting, and it does pull a darker message out of you, and it is phenomenal for shadow work. But if you're going to use it as an everyday deck and you're going to start pulling cards from an everyday perspective, it's important to take your rose-coloured glasses off, that you're not approaching the deck with an optimistic heart. And I say this because it is very easy to sort of want to flip into this optimistic mindset and this rosy outlook when you see the darkness in these cards. And by doing that, I don't think that you're extracting the shadow, the message, the essence, the mystery, the crux of the matter. By saying this also, it doesn't mean that you have to descend into the abyss. You don't have to go all dark to read this deck, but you have to be very grounded, very present, and very real when you approach that artwork, because it is so full on. It's so visceral, it's so moving, which is why it is iconic, which is why it is so popular, which is why people have such an extreme reaction to this deck. The next deck that I'm going to show you is the New Orleans Voodoo Tarot, and this is by Louise Martinet and Sally Ann Glassman. Now, I was inspired to buy this deck quite a few years ago because it's voodoo. You know what I mean? Really good box, really sturdy box. The book itself is just like enormous, and I have said, and I stand by this statement, that it is a short course in New Orleans Voodoo. Look at that. That is enormous. It's enormous. 276 pages worth, and a great amount of information using the cards, the sigils, the voodoo sigils associated to each of the card. Really great amount of information there, and on it goes. You know, it's really intense. If you're interested in voodoo or Yoruba style cultures, diasporic faiths, all things of that nature, then you will probably resonate to some extent with this particular deck. Artwork is interesting. It works with this deck. I like it with this deck. I'm accustomed to seeing this style. That's the backing too, by the way. Now, you all know I am a Brazilian living in Australia, and I come from a Yoruba-based spiritual system called Macumba. And so Macumba and Voodoo and Santeria and Hoodoo have a lot in common. And so I was looking for a deck that would sort of touch on those roots for me. And there is the Tarot of the Orisha. I didn't really love the artwork. I still probably will get that deck. So, again, the ugly white borders, and I think this deck could have been so much better without the ugly white borders, but it is what it is. And the artwork is charming. It's quirky. It's very, I don't know how to describe it exactly. I just know that I'm used to seeing it. I'm used to seeing it. That's sort of how you see, that's the images that you sort of see when you go to the witch markets in Rio, and everything's sort of like this. I don't know what kind of style this is. It's just voodoo style. It's Macumba style. So a really interesting deck, very non-traditional, extremely non-traditional. Works with the Loa, or the Orisha, or the voodoo deity, however you personally like to pronounce it. And yeah, and it can be very, very interesting. So for those of you wishing to journey into the world of the Orisha or the Loa, and want to explore a spiritual system like Voodoo or Santeria, Yoruba, Macumba, then you will probably get a little something out of this particular deck. It is non-traditional, for sure. The next deck that I have for you, and I think we're at about number 9, is one that I have only recently acquired. I did do an unboxing of it, I think, and I just connected with this deck immediately because of the energy of this deck. I originally saw this one on Kelly from the Truth and Story, her YouTube channel, and I asked her questions about it, and I just went, oh my god, this deck is phenomenal. It's phenomenal. How have I never heard of it before? And then it arrived, and that is the Margaret Peterson Tarot. This is a beautiful deck. It comes with a little white book, Little White Book is actually quite interesting with its information. The Little White Book is 78 pages worth of Little White Book, and it's got a good amount of information there. The backing of the cards have a border. The backing has a border. And the cards themselves have quite big borders. And so this is the artwork of the Margaret Peterson Tarot. I loved the energy and the essence of this deck. It is very, very non-traditional, like all, but it's got a little something extra. It goes into a place of transition. It feels like a place of transition between Earth and cosmos, and it's very air, and it's very igniting to the mind, I think. If you were going to use this deck to ignite the muse, to work in the mindscape, to assist you with focus and with transformation from a mental perspective, then this deck is for you. It's very out there, in a way. It's not so out there, but it's very out there in a way, and I love that it reached past all the typical and brought back something that is just so innately beautiful and unique to this particular deck. It has no structure to it. It could be read as an oracle. I do find that the colour palette used does throw back to the element. Thank you. Coins are a little bit more earthy. We've got feathers for air, we've got blues, and we've got yellows, and we've got, you know, greens, and see, coins is very, very earthy in that nature, and the artwork was divided beautifully to represent the elements, and the major arcana is absolutely stunning. And so that is the Margaret Peterson Tarot. Absolutely beautiful tarot deck. Very gentle, but very necessary. The next deck that I'm about to show you is a deck that I have dubbed Little Miss Creepy. It is the Ciccoli Tarot, or the Nicoletta Ciccoli Tarot. It is one that was published by Lo Scarabeo. Terrible shame about that. It is a deck that was created out of pre-existing artwork, specifically Nicoletta Ciccoli's artwork. It comes with, I do believe it comes with a little white book, but I never kept my little white book in the box. I don't often do that, just to create more room, especially if I'm leaving a deck in the box. So this is the backing. Comes with a border as well. It's very holly, it's very Yule in its feel. And this is the deck itself. So this is a mass-produced deck, like I said, Lo Scarabeo. It is an interesting little deck. It is softly creepy. It's like Children of the Corn creepy. It is, oh look at that sweet little card. Ew, when you get a bit closer to it. And I've got to say, it's fun to use for that reason. It's fun to use with others for that reason. It is fun to use with your children for that reason. Or my children are a little bit freaky. Like, they're young, they watch Coraline, and they think that that's hilarious. And I happen to think that Coraline is really freaky, so it's, you know, that kind of situation. But to be clear, this is not a deck that I would just go, hey kids, let's go and use this deck. No, I showed it to them because I thought that it was charming, and then when I started to really look at it, I'm just like, yeah, you know, I had that reaction, and I'm like, you creepy little deck. Yes, a creepy little deck. But it's so fun. It's so fun to use. The artwork is great. They've applied it really well to the suits of the cards, and I guess it does follow. It doesn't follow a Rider-Waite, but they made it fit somehow in this non-traditional. That's the image on the box. This non-traditional structure, and so that is the Nicoletta Ciccoli, my creepy little deck. We are up to deck number 11. This is a deck. I don't love it. Like, I don't love it. It is the Fountain Tarot. I love the craftsmanship, can't even say it, the craftsmanship behind this deck. I love the box I love the magnetic clasp. I love the layout. The packaging is beautiful. It opens like this. It's got a little something there that reads, "You are the voice and the breath of the universe." It's a nice little ribbon. It has a great little book to go with it. The book itself is about 110 pages. The deck is gilded. Get a nice little gilding on that. The backing is terrible, I think. Some people love it. I'm just not one of those people. And the artwork is just not my style. Really good cardstock, about 350 GSM. This deck is not my cup of tea. I think that they have taken a very unique approach, yes, and I have to applaud them for that. They've created something very standalone. It is all air, despite the fact that this deck is called the Fountain Tarot, and it does make you think of water, fountain, etc., etc. This is very air. It has a masculine energy to me. I find that I have read with this deck for men only. They tend to prefer it. And it's not a deck that I personally use for myself. I think that it's a beautiful deck, and it's definitely worth acquiring it from the point of view of a collector, because it is quite iconic and it does have a beautiful place in my collection for that reason. And I'm grateful that I have it, and it is quite unique in its way, but I just don't love it. I especially don't love the way some of the queens are depicted in the court, but it is in itself a beautiful deck. It has been crafted beautifully. It's very thoughtful. It's very unique. And some people really, really love it, and that's awesome, because that's the whole thing about tarot. It's based on art. Art is subjective. You're going to get someone who loves it, and you're going to get someone who hates it. And I'm well aware that when I release my own tarot deck, some people are going to be like, "Yes, I love it," and other people are going to be like, "What is this crap?" And I'm okay with that, you know. And I guess anyone who's making a tarot deck needs to be okay with that. For me, I'm not going to say that this deck is absolute crap, because it's not. It's just not my style. It's not my cup of tea, it's not my bag. It doesn't have the warmth that I look for in a deck. It doesn't even have the quirkiness that I look for in a deck. It is just very... Right, so the next deck is a quirky little deck that was gifted to me by a lovely soul, and it is the Antique Anatomy Tarot, and it does have a great little oracle deck that goes with it. This is the backing of the deck itself, and it is so interesting. It is, as it states, anatomy. In this regard, it can be very similar to, say, the wooden tarot, but the wooden tarot has a much more elegant flourish to it. This is sort of your stock standard, stamped medical image, so to speak, from yesteryear. I find it to be really quite charming and really quite amusing. There are others who find it to be grotesque, and that's okay. But I think that this deck is really quite cool. It's funny, and there's definitely a place for this. It's more of a Samhain deck for getting down to the bare bones. It's a deck that reads... It's not very good with love readings. I've tried it out. It's not great. It's a bit too stark in its way. But it's really good for strategizing. It's really good for sort of digging up the central crux of an issue. Like, it's a great deck for that. It's got an old man personality. It's got an old man personality. That's sort of like the thing about this deck for me, is it feels like old man. And I dig it, I dig it. I had a tremendous respect for my grandparents, and I have a tremendous respect for the elderly, and I happen to think that they're very out there, and they're very, you know, they just reach a point in their life where they're just like, I don't really care what other people think, I'm just going to do my thing and say my thing and be myself. And that's kind of the essence of this deck, is that it's come to terms with who it is. It is a stark, bony, anatomical, stock standard stamp kind of regard deck, and but it's super unique, and it's super quirky, and it's just got a little something extra to it. That's why I kind of like it. So, despite the fact that I said I was only going to do 13, as I get to this point I realised there are two others that I feel like I must mention, and that is because they too are beautifully crafted, very quirky, and quite, you know, known as well. So the first is the Star Child Tarot, and the Star Child Tarot was created by Danielle Knoll. It is a very, very well crafted deck, perhaps one of the most beautifully crafted decks I have ever seen. The box is super sturdy. The guidebook is pretty sturdy as well. It's got a good amount of information, 172 pages. You know, really good black and white representations. It's small, but it contains a lot of information, even though it is quite small. The cards are gilded in this way. The backing is very soft. It's got this beautiful cosmic watercolor feel. And here you have the name of the suits have been replaced. I don't own this. I haven't owned this deck or used it long enough or enough to remember, but you know, crystals is one, and I think, oh no, it's just it's just earth that was changed to crystals. So what am I talking about? And so the cardstock is like 400 GSM. It's so good. It's the best cardstock I have ever felt on a deck. The next best cardstock on a deck belongs to the Sacred Creator Oracle by Chris Ann. But that is an oracle deck. I just honorably mentioned that because of the cardstock itself. It's phenomenal cardstock. Beautiful big representations on the cards. It is photorealism, this deck, and it's for that reason that I don't love it. Because it's photorealism. It did do its photorealism pretty good though. There are cards in here that they've blended it beautifully. There are other cards that I can see and that annoys me. I'm not huge on photorealism in decks, but that's just my own personal feelings. And I know that this deck is loved by many. It's quite iconic in its way. It's sold out. It's been reprinted. It's on its second or third edition. I can't really be sure. But I decided one day that I really wanted it. And once I got it, I thought, I'm so glad I have you, because you are the epitome of a well-crafted deck. I needed to know that a deck like this, a tarot deck, could be as well-crafted as this, and now I wish that every single tarot deck ever released was crafted in this way. Like, good box, good cardstock, nice gilding, the whole kit and caboodle. It's not foiled gilding. You know, so some decks have foiled gilding, like say, you know, oracle decks, some of Colette Baron Reid's oracle decks, they've got foiled gilding. The Prisma Visions? Yeah, the Prisma Visions Tarot is like silver foiled, and it's very foiled, and that begins to sort of pull apart and tear away. This is not. It looks like it's brushed on in some really unique way. That's beautiful. Same with Chris Ann's. They've actually got a similar gilding, so I'm not surprised if they were printed at the similar place, but really, really beautiful deck. And the last of my honourable mentions is one that I did mention throughout this, at some point throughout this particular video, but it's the Wooden Tarot. I love the backing of this deck. It's got such a beautiful sort of creamy ivory tone to it. It's very wood in its approach. And so this is what I was talking about as far as the minimalism goes, because you do get like this bone antler business and like this bone work, and it does remind me a bit of the antique anatomy, because we are looking at bones, we're looking at something similar, but as you can see, it is not at all similar in that regard. Like, it just sort of reminds me. This is a very, very beautiful deck. It is simplistic, it is charming, the use of colour is beautiful, it's very earthy, it's very present, it's very raw, and it has a beautiful companion. Well, it's not necessarily a companion, but it has a beautiful oracle deck that can be used as a companion. And together on a table, they just look stunning. They look stunning. But this will give you a really great reading. I love to read with this particular deck, you know, throughout the middle of the year. And I think that it does a really good spirituality, or even a good sort of business and spirituality kind of reading. It's great for reading with pagans. I like it. The cardstock is pretty good. It's not great. But the one thing that I don't like about this deck is that it just naturally bows. It just naturally bows. I don't know what it is, but it just it's like, it doesn't sit flat, it's not firm enough, and I don't know if that's the type of stock that they've used that creates that little unnecessary phenomenon, but it does, it bows. And so, yeah, it's a bit annoying, but, you know, when I use it, I just pop it on my reading table and I put a good crystal on top of it, and it tends to hold it down. It actually creates more bowing by putting a big solid crystal directly in the center of it, but what are you going to do? I really do like this deck, and I don't know how to really describe it, as far as to say that it feels warm, it feels nurturing, it feels like sage woman. That's what it feels like. It feels like a sage woman, someone that you can go to for this shamanic type of wisdom, and it's very light and it's quite airy. So it's a melding, I guess you could say, of earth and air, and so it's got that balanced masculine and feminine, air of course being more ruled by masculine qualities and earth being more ruled by feminine qualities. So you've got that nice little balance of masculine and feminine and earth and air, and, you know, as above so below kind of energy. So very beautiful deck, and I had to mention it. I just had to mention it. So there you have it, guys. That is the end of this very, very long video of non-traditional decks. So I hope that I was able to show you some really interesting decks, some that you may have seen before but been a bit more curious about, some that you might not have seen before. It's just fun to look at some decks from time to time, especially ones that don't necessarily fit the traditional molds, and so that is exactly what I was attempting to deliver to you guys. So I sincerely hope that you have enjoyed this video, and if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below, and give this a thumbs up if you really liked it, because if you did like it, I might go ahead and do some more top 10s and, you know, videos like this one. So much love, many blessings. Mwah! Please look after yourselves. Bye!